Welcome to another episode of the Taryn Reeve Show. Today, I am joined by one of my beautiful authors, Yvette Mayer. Welcome, Yvette. So happy to have you here.
I'm very excited to have this conversation. It's amazing to be here with you.
Beautiful. Now, I'm going to give Yvette a bit of an introduction because she is an amazing woman. She's a global business and marketing coach with a 30-year background in corporate marketing, you guys. That is amazing. She walked out of her career determined to feel more lit up and liberated, and makes it her mission to help others do the same. She helps women cash in on their years of experience and wisdom by growing an online business and claiming their role as CEO. She supports her clients to unlock purposeful, profitable, scalable growth with digital products. She is a highly regarded leader, speaker, coach, mentor, and mindset magician. She balances her business with exploring the world as a digital nomad with her doggy, Chilli Sparkles. How beautiful, Yvette. What a cool dog name, by the way, Chilli Sparkles. What kind of a dog is she?
She is a cavoodle, and yes, the backstory is my oldest niece wanted to call her Sparkles.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, so double-barreled she is.
Fair enough. Why not? We all deserve more than one name, right? Now, you have written a chapter in a multi-author book project with us here at Four Eagles Publishing. The book is called Corporate Dropout. I would love it if you can give our listeners and our viewers a bit of a sneak peek into what your chapter is about.
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity. And I have to say, when I came across this project, given my own experience, I felt very called to connect with you and contribute, because I am the ultimate corporate dropout.
Yes.
As you said, I had a 30-year-long corporate career. And yes, that does make me a little seasoned and mature-aged. However, I will say that I started in advertising in an agency role at 17.
Wow.
And when you jump into my chapter, you'll discover the twists and turns and how that career unfolded from the very early beginnings of maybe I want to give this advertising thing a go, and the dizzying heights. Advertising in the 80s and 90s was a very exciting place to be. But over the years, I realized that it wasn't the most purposeful of work, and it actually felt a little bit shallow at times. And the other thing that I would call out is dealing with the marketing community at large. There's a lot of ego involved, and people are not necessarily nice to each other all the time. And a major life event that happened to me 11 years ago was being diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was absolutely one of those, very much a defining moment. And I can look back and it changed me forever. And one of the big things that it had me realizing is that, life's not a dress rehearsal. And as much as I enjoyed the lifestyle and the trappings of my, what I would call a high-flying career, there was a disconnection in terms of true purpose and joy. And in that moment, whilst it took a long time to act on it, I knew that I needed to create a new path for myself.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, so my chapter definitely goes into how that process unfolded, and taking me through to where I am today, which is 3 years into having my own business, which I absolutely love.
Yes.
It's also had twists and turns, but I'm super happy to be where I am. I do feel lit up and liberated, which I suspect we'll get into more conversation about later. And that's, that is my ambition, is to go through my experience of life and to help others get out of the conditioned way of living and getting onto that, career ladder, so to speak. And then, following the footsteps in front of them without questioning whether they're really happening. And, there are so many women and men out there who have done that and that absolutely feel quite stuck. maybe they're providing for their family, there's the mortgages, there's all of the trappings that come with that. And it's a bunch of BS, really, when you take a step back and consider your actual level of joy in life and your contribution to the world and making a positive impact. All of those things are genuinely very important to me, and I believe they're important to everybody if they have the opportunity to question themselves. And it is our right to feel more lit up in the work that we do and liberated from those chains and the conditioned way of living on the corporate track, so to speak.
Yes, so much hell yes for all of that, Yvette. That is so amazing. So if someone was feeling stuck in their corporate job, whether that is because they are the sole provider or the money's just too good to say no to, and they're trying to find that courage or that way out, or just seeking that next step, what would your advice be to that person?
I would absolutely have them dive deeper into their own inner resources. Like, what am I actually passionate about? I love Simon Sinek's work around finding your why and going much deeper into, why am I actually here? What is my contribution in the world? If I consider my experience, my genetics, my behavior, my natural talents, like the things that I've been through, all of those things, they really add up to us having an individual blueprint. That I believe is our purpose in the world, to find, why we're here, what we are uniquely gifted at bringing into the world, and then ultimately to monetize that. But the first step is just this process of discovery. From there, it really does depend on your level of commitment and responsibility, how quickly you can navigate through this. So in my instance, I took the decision I was fortunate enough to get an annual bonus to actually put that money aside into, that is going to be the foundation for me moving into my own business, even before I knew what that business was going to be. And that can look very different for, as I said, depending on your scenario. I also have to be single with no children, so that was a little easier for me. But for those of you that are watching or listening to this that are not in that situation, I would suggest that you start with more of a side hustle. So the combination of, as best as you possibly can, starting to put some of your financial resources aside. And at the same time, start to really capitalize on what is already within you, but start walking towards, what else do I need to do to upskill or qualify myself in the direction that I see myself going. You won't necessarily know where it will take you, but you will have a sense for. So for me, it really started with well-being. Especially after going through breast cancer, but I've always been somebody who is very tapped in and connected to physical well-being. And then after going through breast cancer, even though I wasn't financially or even like mentally aware of what to do next, I started to upskill. So I did health coaching, qualifications training, and I did yoga teacher training. Now, neither of those things has ended up being my destiny, but both of them were really important skills and qualifications to take me on this journey and to stretch me and give me the opportunity to explore more of what I do enjoy and what I do want to step into.
That is such sound advice, honestly. I think that if for any of you listening, that is really something you need to go back and re-listen to if you're wanting to exit the corporate world as such, and how to do that in a very practical, grounded way. Now, we have briefly touched on the fact that running your own business is not always easy, and it's not this easeful, joyful ride all of the time. There are the situations, when you're at 1 a.m. on a Saturday night crying on the floor of your office because something's gone wrong, or it can tend to be a very big struggle to start out with. and continuing, just like everything in life, you have your ups and your downs. What has been your biggest tool in your toolkit, if you like, that has supported you to move past those things? I guess it's the thing that makes you get up when you get knocked down again and again and again.
This is a really rich topic, and I don't think there's one thing.
Yeah.
I do believe that having a really clear mission, and it comes back to your why.
Yes.
And seeing the impact and the legacy that you're building longer term, like actually having clarity around that will pull you forward when your monkey mind is telling you, no, go get a part-time job, you're failing. And that will happen.
Yes.
But in addition to that, of course I will say this as a business coach, but I have absolutely invested in a ton of mentors, coaches, courses and programs, and I would not be where I am without having done that. I absolutely can look back and see those moments of decision and backing myself and making those big financial investments. And then the return on investment has blown my mind. So, I signed up for my first full year mastermind when I was making, I don't know, $2,000-$3,000 a month. And it was a multiple 5-figure investment. But within 4 or 5 months, I was making multiple 5-figure months. And I just don't imagine that I could have gotten there without that level of support and knowledge coming through to me. So that has been fundamental to me getting to where I am. And I'm not saying that you can't do this without that level of investment in support. I'm not at all. And look, one of the things that's true for me is because I am single, I don't have a partner or anyone, let's be honest, that I can unpack and share the emotional roller coaster that is building a business with. If I don't pay someone.
That's one of my favorite things about having a coach or a mentor is that even if you don't need the practical side of things, if you've already got that, they help you get out of your own way, because it is human nature to question yourself, to not know what to do next, to feel completely overwhelmed, to feel alone. Even if you do have a partner, most of them work in traditional corporate jobs and they don't even know what the hell this online business thing is, right? They're like, so what do you even do again? Like, you just chat to people all day and you get paid? It's like, no, I actually work really hard. Really hard.
You think I'm not working? I am in my head. Working. Always.
It's not like you clock off at 5 o'clock and that's it. This is your baby. Like, this is your business baby. And we're so invested and so passionate about it because it becomes most of our reason for keeping on going, and because we're on a mission, right? This is our purpose. This is our joy. And when you do get stuck and you don't have somebody to voice that through, or someone who's a few steps ahead of you and has been through something similar, it can get really hard. So I will never be without a coach or a mentor, no matter how far along the business thing I get, even if it's just to have a biz bestie, I call them, where we have meetings and, bounce ideas off each other and help each other and refer each other. Find the relationship that works for you, and you don't have to invest multiple 5 figures right off the bat if you cannot afford to. Start small, join some Facebook groups. They have loads of beautiful free content out there that 100%. Can really support you. I know you've got do you have a Facebook group, Yvette?
I do. It's Lit Up and Liberated Entrepreneur.
Lit Up and Liberated Entrepreneur. There you go. There's a perfect example. Go and join that Facebook group, because I'm sure you will find a lot of value in there. Lit Up and Liberated Entrepreneur. Now, tell me, Yvette, what was your biggest learning from working in such a high-flying, glamorous advertising job? What was the one thing that you can kind of distill down, do you think? Hard one, I know.
Oh, look, 30 years of living that life. Okay. I want to give you something of value. So I'm going to start with something that is more tangible if you are considering being a corporate dropout. And that is, if you're clear on what you are hoping to do longer term, you can actually start to bring elements of that into the workplace and build some credibility and comfort and experience around that direction well before it becomes a clear path out. And I'm going to give you an example of this. So in my last role, knowing that I'd done a lot of studying in the wellbeing area, and look, let's be honest, I was the managing director, so I had a lot of freedom and I was empowered to make a decision like this. But part of my remit was to rebuild a culture in that agency that was struggling. And as part of that, I gave myself the role of head of wellbeing.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that meant that I had, I had pillars. So it wasn't just a wellbeing pillar. There was a people pillar. There was a culture pillar. There were 5 or 6 pillars, but I sat on that committee rather than like outsourcing that to the staff.
Yes.
I sat on that committee and I actually ran a pillar in that committee.
Yeah.
That I could start to show up as the future me that I was working towards.
Yes.
And it was absolutely amazing in helping me step out of corporate and already have a reputation for somebody who was very passionate in this area. I'd already started working with some of our media, because I worked in the side of advertising where you work with the media. So television networks, digital, publishers, all of that. So I'd already been into some of those offices giving presentations on the topic.
Amazing. Amazing.
And that's more of a direct lesson for you.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I would say is, and this is hard, but you're allowed to be you. You don't have to conform to the blueprint of a corporate citizen to be successful. Now, the way this impacted my life is I was always exactly who I am now.
Yeah.
I was kind, generous, supportive, and considered the bigger picture in terms of truly desiring to make the work environment that I was in better and more fulfilling for the people on my team. So in other words, I was a really strong leader. And that is exactly who I am now.
Yeah.
Did I fit the mold of a corporate citizen? No, I didn't. I actually stood out because I was more personable, warm, more considered in bringing in stakeholders to make decisions than dictatorial.
Yeah.
And I rose to the very top of the industry.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that so much. Just be you, whatever that looks like. I think there's so much pressure and modeling around us of what we should look like, what we should say, what our hair should look like, what we should be doing, what we should like, what we shouldn't like. And it's exhausting to live like that. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage to undo that conditioning. We're born that way, but then somewhere along the way, we lose that, and that innate human need to fit in and be liked and accepted by the people around you can really, really force your hand in a way to stop being who you truly are. And then you do it so often that you forget who you truly are, and then you have to go on this journey of remembering, and often the universe will give you a beautiful little backhand at some stage in your life that really causes you to drop back down and go, hang on, what's happening here? And I know that so many stories in this book, Corporate Dropouts, have this polite, sometimes not so polite backhand from the universe.
Yeah, I bet. I can't wait to read all of the other authors' contributions.
Oh, it's so amazing. Yes. And one thing you touched on as well was the word comfort when you were giving your practical example. When you start to bring these things into your corporate life, you can start to practice that, because it is the fear that so often keeps us stuck in a illusionary cage, if you like, a cage we have made for ourselves based out of our own fears. And when we start to get comfortable, and it's just like a muscle, the more you do it, the more you practice it, the safer you feel. You can start to dismantle that cage. So if you are doing it inside of your corporate environment, as if it's suggested, then it will help you when you do finally hand in that resignation or move to a different company or a different role within the company, as is your purpose. Then you will have some comfort and level of familiarity around that.
I would throw in the word resilience.
Yes, resilience, absolutely.
And the only way to build resilience is to go through a lot of I wouldn't say trauma, but challenges.
Challenges, yes, they do shape us. Challenges do shape us, and it's the resilience resilience muscle that gets built.
The more times that we learn in our nervous system that we can move through the challenge and actually step into a bigger and better environment, the easier it gets to do the thing that is moving.
Yep, I love that. Okay, so we've used the words lit up and liberated quite a few times now, and I know that this is kind of like your warrior queen war cry tagline kind of thing. Tell me more about how this came to you or why it means so much to you.
Well, it's definitely in the book, but look, I realized for a very long time that I felt quite stuck in my corporate career. I felt like I was so overcommitted to two mortgages, but also accustomed to living life with incredible resources financially and connection wise, networking wise, even ego wise, like having that kind of high profile role and then considering leaving. All of that felt very scary to walk away from. And so stuck is a word that I would use. It's like when I first kind of returned from being out with breast cancer treatments, there was a moment when one of my bosses basically said to me, you know, you've been through a lot. Are you sure you're still up for this? I wanted to slap him. I was so angry that I worked through most of my breast cancer treatment. Like 75% of it, I was in the office. And they had me flying around the country wearing a wig, you know, like into client meetings. And in that moment, I was like, hell yeah, like, of course I can still do my job, and how rude of you to even imply, no.
How dare you?
How dare you? And it actually renewed my passion for my career. But I think there was also, that was because I didn't know what to do. I didn't act, and then, you know, like, tell someone you can't do something, and the first thing you want to do is do it and prove them wrong. So there was a couple of things that happened in that moment. I wanted to slap him, and I realized that I couldn't stay in the office role country, actually. Like, I'd been in the same business for 11 years at that point, or 12 years, in the Australian operation of an advertising agency. And that was when I realized that I needed to do something massive. And that ended up is asking for a transfer to the New York office. It wasn't out because I at that point I had no clue. Like, it's not like I spent my breast cancer treatment trying to figure it out. You don't figure anything out when you're going through breast cancer treatment. You're too busy staying alive and just getting through days. It started the process, and I thought, look, I could just get a different job doing the same thing somewhere else, and I know I'm going to feel the same. I could walk out without a clue what I'm going to do next, and I think I'd have to sell my house immediately to fund that, and I don't feel ready to do that. Or third option, I could do something super exciting and get an international transfer and go live in New York, which was kind of a latent dream of mine. And have it all, in a way, like have a new lease on life and feel very excited, not be in the same office environment at all, like completely different country, thousands of employees, like such a different ball game.
Yeah.
I decided to do that. But ultimately, you know, the same feelings continued in around my purpose. And, you know, the more I leaned towards well-being, the more I felt out of alignment with many of the clients I worked on, fast food, confectionery, and that my role in the world was, you know, inside my head, I'd be like, I'm selling candy to babies. That, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then over time, because I was becoming so disconnected and out of alignment with the purposeful side of my work, then I started to really feel like exhausted by it. Like I would sit in meetings and be so checked out.
Yeah.
Like just my care for what I was doing, which isn't great, was just decreasing.
Yeah.
And that really reached like the tipping point when I moved back to Australia, and I hoped that I was going to come back and new agency again, biggest job of my career. And I was like, well, shall I do this when I know that ultimately I want to get out of the industry? And that recruitment process convinced me that it's going to feel so different. You've worked for the network I had worked for 17 years. This is going to be a whole different culture. And, you know, it was my way back to Australia. So I did that thing. Yeah. But that was like within 6 months, I think I knew that I'm really done.
Yeah.
So stuck and drained. And from there, I started to truly look at, right, what's my pathway out? And the lit up and liberated thing, sorry, long story to get to the answer.
No, it's really fascinating. Please continue.
I was seeing a kinesiologist. And by this stage, I'd started selling doTERRA essential oils, as well as working in my full-time job, because, you know, that's what you do when you're trying to figure out how am I going to monetize my passions. And I was working through a lot of energy shifting and like getting ready to walk out of the career. I was working with a kinesiologist, and she just asked me at the end of a session, so just tell me in a couple of words, what's this going to look like when you've left? How do you want to feel? And I said, I want to feel lit up and liberated. And we both were like, oh, that's really powerful.
Yes. How did it feel in that moment?
Like power, like, oh my God, that is it. That is what I want. Yeah. And I had no idea that was going to become such a big part of my business and my branding, but it is absolutely me through and through. And it's very much what my mission and my movement is about. It's about this opportunity that we have in front of us to absolutely walk out, detach, like disconnect from all of the things that are keeping us stuck.
Yeah. So tell me a bit more about your business and how it looks now, and this mission that you're so passionate about. Tell me a bit more about what you do, how you do it, if you like, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so things have unfolded over the years, and the biggest realization I had was that I could connect the dots from the 30 years that I had in marketing and advertising with my passion for helping women feel lit up and liberated, and stepping into business coaching. So I did do all sorts of coaching on the way through. Yes. And then around a little under 2 years ago, it's like the dots all connected. And I was like, oh my goodness, the thing that I love the most is helping people break free of those chains that are keeping them stuck in terms of mindset, that are, you know, keeping them stuck in terms of confidence, and connecting that into how do they market their business, scale it, and ultimately build a business where they love what they do. And they don't just love it, but they have this sense that their business loves them back. Yes. Like so important. Their business is actually giving them the freedom that they crave. Their business is actually giving them the choice. And that to me is the epitome of feeling lit up and liberated. And the way that I support my clients. So I work with online business owners, mostly service providers, but not exclusively, because I'm much more around the marketing aspect, whether that's a product or a service. But my experience as a service owner business does set me up for even deeper, lived experience, if you like, with things like coaches, healers, other mentors. And the area that has absolutely unlocked the most freedom for me is in the creation and the scaling of digital products. And so over time, I've evolved into that being a real specialty of mine. So helping, I'll explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, please do.
Women who are doing all the hours, love their business, but don't feel very loved back, to step up and claim their space as a subject matter expert and hold space for others, unleashing their wisdom experience into the world with digital products. And when I refer to digital products, I'm talking about courses, group coaching programs, memberships, and things like masterminds. All of those things outside of a membership are things that are present in my business. And because of my marketing background and my ability to understand people, I have had the incredible experience of having a lot of success with digital products quickly, figuring out how to strip out all of the complicated aspects and make it really accessible for anybody that, you know, wants to share their experience with the world for the benefit of others. And so I love nothing more than working with women who are doing a lot of one-on-one work, or even in a product business, to appreciate, expand into doing this style of digital product that can absolutely scale without, you know, it taking more time. So in the digital world, like my mastermind is a great example of this. The core content of my mastermind, I recorded 2 years ago, 18 months ago. And it's still the core content. You know, a bit of delayed gratification, a lot of investment into creating work that I was really proud of and that I know transformational. But then I get to monetize that over and over and over again. And these days, like my most recent course, which is actually a course teaching you how to create a digital product simply and effectively, 4 modules. I recorded the whole thing live to the first round of students that signed up to that. And on the back end, I edited into a pre-recorded course. So simple. And the power of that course, because it shows the process. It shows me showing up and creating a really simple roadmap to irresistibility. My superpower, if you like, is also infusing marketing principles from the outset so that it actually sells. You know,
so important.
It's done in a way where it's inherently built for irresistibility by tapping into, you know, the core promise and the audience and all of those good things, getting really tight on the messaging. But, you know, I work with a lot of clients who have a one-on-one business or something, you know, they're doing a lot of trading dollars for hours. Expanding into a digital product starts to shift the amount of choice and freedom that they have in their business. They're able to continue scaling their income without working more. And that's what lights me up. That's when they start to feel more lit up and liberated, when they're getting that happening in their business.
Amazing. And it is so important to get that marketing right, because you could be the very best at what you do, but if nobody knows you're there, then you're not going to make any money. So the marketing, I think, is something that scares a lot of people, because it can be quite this complex thing that is made to look really hard and all of these sorts of things. But when you work with somebody in the know, or you do the work yourself to get yourself in the know, your business will grow in leaps and bounds. Marketing is an essential foundation for everything you do in your business. And I love that you infuse that in your business coaching, and what amazing experience to bring to the table. I don't think that I have heard of any other business coach who has that experience that you do. So that's amazing. Now, I know we've touched on this, but who do you love to work with?
Yeah. I love to work with women who have a history in corporate, or actually have this sense of, I'm excited to be doing this new business thing.
Yep.
But how do I make it work? Like, how do I actually get people to know who I am? How do I get my marketing working for me? How do I get my business model working for me? They tend to be, I wouldn't say old, but yeah, because of my vintage, I do attract a slightly more mature audience, which is perfect.
Yep.
And primarily women who have online businesses. A lot of coaches, but not exclusively. I have e-commerce clients, I have product-based clients, spiritual advisors, kinesiologists.
Amazing.
And look, what they have in common is a real passion for wanting to create a legacy in their world and make a positive contribution, and also a desire to work with someone who's very accessible, intimate in how they work with them, and will cheerlead for them as they go on this journey, which, as you said earlier, it's fraught with ups and downs. Gets a little bit more steady and stable as you go in terms of the emotional roller coaster, but it's
it is. I love it. So speaking of legacy, then what is next for you?
That's a beautiful question. So the biggest thing for me is to move from working with tens of women and helping them unlock feeling lit up and liberated into hundreds and thousands. Like that is what I'm here to do. And in terms of how I'm doing that, my signature product is my mastermind. I actually have 2 levels of my mastermind, which is now an annual membership style mastermind, which I absolutely love. And I have my 4-module Digital Product Academy course, which, do you know what? That is probably the thing that I see long-term as being the horsepower of getting to more and more women and making that positive contribution, because it is such a game changer to help women, start to elevate their business model into that place where they can have a greater impact and income. Amazing.
Okay, so we've got one chapter from you in this book, Corporate Dropout, and it is a juicy one. It's written so beautifully. Is there a solo book on the horizon for you?
I actually jumped into this project with that question on my mind. I haven't answered it. I think for now, the process of writing a chapter was quite challenging. It stretched me. It gave me a really good insight to how much time and energy that it takes. I won't be writing a book within the next 12 months, but I do see it in my future.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, and what would you say to somebody considering working with us here at 4 Eagles Publishing?
Yeah, go for it. It's such a wonderful experience. And look, I think I'm going to have even more to say on this topic once the book is thriving and, we're all out there celebrating it. But yeah, go for it.
Amazing. Okay, and how can people find you?
Oh, well, I'm all over the socials. My name is my personal brand, Yvette Mayer. So Instagram I am in and very connected to on a daily basis. I would say that's my lead social channel, but my website is simply yvettemeyer.com. The Lit Up and Liberated Entrepreneur is my podcast name as well as my Facebook group name.
Perfect.
And Google me, go on, I dare you.
I love it. I love a good challenge. I can see everyone Googling now. I'm going to put all of Yvette's links inside of the notes for this episode. Now, if you are wanting to read Yvette's chapter in Corporate Dropouts and the many other amazing women that are included in this book, the book is available on Amazon and on other platforms. I will put the link to purchase that inside of the notes as well. And if you are considering writing, publishing, or marketing your book, whether you want to be involved in a multi-author book like Yvette has been in Corporate Dropouts, or wanting to write your solo book, then please come and find us on www.4eaglespublishing.com. Thank you so much for being with me today, Yvette. It's been an absolute joy finding out more about your amazing history and what you're doing in the world now. May we all be more lit up and liberated. Thank you for writing away.
Thanks, Karen. This has been wonderful.
We'll speak to you soon.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.